Hello, and welcome to our Take 10 webinar. Today, we will be discussing the benefits of movement on mental health. My name is Ashley, and I'm a fitness services manager for Premise Health. I entered the fitness industry in 2002 in New York, New York, as a personal trainer after completing my BFA in ballet and dancing as a professional ballerina. While working in the fitness industry, I completed my master's in business administration for healthcare management, as well as my master's in exercise science and health promotion, as well as many other certifications, including Pilates, yoga, and aquatic exercise. I'm also a certified medical exercise specialist through the American Council on Exercise, and I am currently serving on the board of directors for the Medical Fitness Association. Now, what's really exciting is we get to share a little time together today to talk about the benefits of movement on mental health. So, here we see our objectives. And the first thing we're going to do is really just gain an understanding of the powerful impact that movement can have on our mental health. Then we're going to find some ways that we can all individually care for our mental health through movement. That's right. We're going to create some action items. So, toward the end of our time today, I will invite you to grab a pen, a piece of paper, or open up a Word doc, or even just send yourself a text message. And we'll have these action items that will then carry us into the future. Now, before we get to all these action items, let's take a look at some of our statistics. So, here we see some statistics that relate to mental health, including in the United States, nearly 1 in 5 adults lives with a mental illness. 28% of adults have reported symptoms of anxiety disorder, and 23% of adults have reported symptoms of depressive disorder. Now, the key takeaway here is that while mental illness and disorders clinically affect more than a quarter of our population, many more of us are affected on a day-to-day basis. So let's just take a look at some of the benefits of movement on mental health that can be enjoyed by all of us. So these benefits include the fact that regular physical activity can reduce the risk of depression and anxiety. So getting out and getting movement helps us feel better, and it is going to reduce our risk of depression and anxiety. It also improves our self-esteem and our cognitive function. So sometimes we may be so engrossed in our work, right? We're working hard, say at the computer, and there is no solution, right? We cannot find the answer. Simply stepping away, getting a little movement in is going to boost our self-esteem. It's also going to give us some clarity of thought. So oftentimes then we'll come back to that seemingly insurmountable problem and we'll have a solution. Exercise has also been shown to alleviate social withdrawal. It's a great way for us to connect with others in a healthy way. As little as 10 minutes can be enough to boost our mood. So same when we're in work, when we're feeling that stress, that anxiety, that tension, that anger, that sadness, if we can just get out and move for 10 minutes, we're going to feel a boost in those positive emotions. Now, evidence does also suggest that people of all ages who are moderately or very physically active have a significantly higher happiness and life satisfaction score compared to their less active peers. So let's just take a moment to consider the why behind all this, because these are some great, fascinating benefits. Well, ultimately, we are meant to move. We lived as hunter-gatherers for most of our human existence. And we were very physically active through our lives. This physical activity kept us healthy then, and it keeps us healthy now. Physical activity protects our mental health because movement increases oxygen intake and blood flow, both of which help us to feel less anxious and less depressed. Furthermore, physical activity helps to regulate our autonomic nervous system, which is a component of the peripheral nervous system that regulates involuntary physiologic processes, including heart rate, blood pressure, respiration, and digestion. So let's take a look at this autonomic nervous system. It can be divided into two parts, and these two parts work together to keep our bodies in balance. On the left, we see our sympathetic nervous system, which we think of as our fight or flight mode. This nervous system processes important information and allows us to respond to dangerous or stressful situations by it speeds up our heart rate, increases our blood flow and our blood pressure. It produces adrenaline and cortisol. We are ready. Now, on the other side, we see our parasympathetic nervous system. This is our rest and digest mode. It carries signals that relax the body's systems that are triggered by the sympathetic nervous system. So it controls bodily functions while at rest. It stimulates digestion. It activates metabolism. It maintains our immune system. And we thrive when these two symptoms, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, are in balance. However, many of us experience stress and it's caused us to have an overactive sympathetic side, an overactive sympathetic nervous system. So this stress may be the result of personal factors, but it may also be the result of just some common issues that we are facing now in our modern society. Let's take a moment to think about life as a hunter-gatherer. Back in those days, we were moving a lot. We had short bursts of energy and physical activity for our work and our play. And these were also punctuated by long periods of rest or waiting while we waited for tides to change or weather to pass, giving us a chance for introspection, a chance for self-reflection without distraction. On the other side, nowadays, being sedentary is our norm, whether it's for work or for leisure time when we think about things such as watching TV or scrolling on our phone. And this leisure time, while it's sedentary, is also constantly stimulating us, which leads us to self-report stress rates that are higher than ever. Now, we think about the risks of these two lifestyles, right? Of being a hunter-gatherer. Well, there was a very real risk of starvation or injuries from an active lifestyle that could have been fatal, right? We didn't have modern medicine if, say, we got a scrape or something and then it became infected. On the flip side, statistically now, we're more likely to get health issues from living an inactive lifestyle and also from eating higher quantities of less nutritious food. So it's as though we've created this imbalance. Well, safe to say that our industrial society has definitely solved some problems of the past, right? However, there are some now new problems that we have not yet adapted to. So the question is, technology has helped us to solve the problems of history. Can history help us to solve some of these technology-induced problems? Well, some of them we see listed here. So we're moving less than ever, and yet we're constantly stimulated. All right, so there are much fewer physically active jobs nowadays. However, there's abundance of things that's constantly competing for our attention. We also have a lot of non-tangible problems that are increasingly complex. All right, for example, let's think back to our hunter-gatherer days, all right? Back then, we had a very real threat, right? We saw the wild animal chasing us, a very real, tangible problem. That's very different from, say, editing and sending 100 emails, which is a very non-tangible task, but still causing us a lot of stress. So what we need is to find healthy outlets to manage this stress and give us a clear head. We're also bombarded with this addiction-based technology and this instant gratification. And what we've found is that it turns out that does not make us happy. However, delayed gratification does. It gives us long-term high rewards. So now let's think about the delayed gratification of sitting less and moving more. As we talked about on the previous slide, that's going to contribute to our improved cognitive function and self-esteem. It's going to alleviate our social withdrawal. It's going to boost our mood. It's going to give us that higher level of happiness and life satisfaction. So let's think about how can we get some of this movement into our day. The time is now. Grab that pen and paper, open up that Word document, or even just send yourself a text message with the answer to some of these questions. Take a moment to ask yourself, what is my favorite way to move? Because if we enjoy moving, then we're much more likely to do it. And it's a 2-for-1 special, right? We're boosting our mental health by moving and by doing something we enjoy. We can also ask ourselves, are there activities that we're currently doing that can be enhanced by movement, right? For example, when we're, say, talking on the phone to a friend or watching a meeting or a webinar, could be walk in place or stretch as we're enjoying it. Another question is, are there pockets of time that we could leverage for some mindful movement? Maybe we're giving a loved one a ride somewhere, and while we're waiting, we can hop out of the car, get a little bit of walking in, take in our surroundings with our 5 senses, bring that mindfulness and movement component together. As you seek to find the answers to these questions, we can then reap the benefits of moving more on our mental health. I'd like to thank you for joining me today.